The country club ballroom was decorated in silver and gold, my parents' anniversary colors. 80 guests mingled under crystal chandeliers, sipping champagne that cost more per bottle than I used to make in a week. At least that's what everyone thought. I stood near the back corner by the dessert table, wearing a navy dress from Target that I'd owned for 4 years. My shoes were comfortable flats, scuffed at the toes. My purse was a no-name brand I'd picked up at a discount store. I looked exactly like what my family thought I was. A failure. Is that what she's wearing? I heard my Aunt Linda whisper to my mother. Margaret, couldn't you have loaned her something more appropriate? Mom's smile was tight. I tried. She's very independent. Independent was code for stubborn. Stubborn was code for poor and too proud to accept help. My older brother Daniel held court near the bar, his arm around his wife Sophie. They were telling the story, again, about their recent kitchen renovation. $35,000 for Italian marble countertops. Everyone oohed and awed appropriately. And what about you, Emily? My cousin Jessica asked, turning to me with that sympathetic head tilt people reserve for natural disasters and terminally ill relatives. What have you been up to? Working mostly, I said. Still at that little bookkeeping job? Something like that. Jessica patted my arm. Well, there's nothing wrong with simple work. Not everyone can be ambitious like Daniel. I smiled and excused myself to the bathroom. The bathroom in the country club was nicer than most people's living rooms. Marble everything, gold fixtures, hand towels that were actually cloth. I stood at the sink and looked at myself in the mirror. 32 years old. Plain face, no makeup except some drugstore mascara. Hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. I looked tired because I was tired. Running a private equity firm while maintaining the appearance of poverty was exhausting. But it was almost over. Tonight was the night I'd been planning for 3 years. When I returned to the ballroom, Dad was standing at the microphone, preparing to make an announcement. Mom stood beside him, radiant in a designer gown that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Thank you all for being here to celebrate 35 years of marriage, Dad began, his voice booming across the room. Margaret and I are so blessed to have family and friends like you. Applause. Glasses raised. As many of you know, we're embarking on a very special anniversary trip next week, a 30-day Mediterranean cruise. First class all the way. More applause. Someone whistled. Dad's smile widened. We're taking our children with us, of course. Daniel and Sophie will be joining us along with their twins. Daniel raised his glass. The crowd cheered. Then Dad's expression changed just slightly. His smile became more forced. Unfortunately, not all of our children will be able to attend. The room quieted. Everyone turned to look at me. My stomach tightened, but I kept my face neutral. Emily won't be joining us, Dad continued, his voice carrying that careful tone people use when discussing something embarrassing. We thought it would be best, given her current circumstances. We can't have you on the anniversary cruise, he said louder now, addressing me directly. You'd embarrass us. The room was completely silent now. 80 pairs of eyes stared at me. My Aunt Linda actually gasped. My cousin Jessica's mouth fell open. The cruise is black tie, Mom added, her voice apologetic but firm. Multiple formal events. We just thought it would be uncomfortable for you, sweetie. You understand. What she meant was, you can't afford the clothes, you can't afford to tip the staff, you can't afford to hold your head up among people who actually matter. I felt everyone's pity like a physical weight. Poor Emily. Poor, struggling, embarrassing Emily. I understand, I said quietly. Enjoy your trip. Dad looked relieved. We'll bring you back a souvenir. A few people laughed nervously. The tension began to dissipate. Then Dad's phone rang. He pulled it from his pocket, glanced at the screen, and his eyebrows rose. It's Robert Chin. I should probably put it on speaker, someone called out. Let him wish you happy anniversary. Dad grinned and hit the speaker button. Robert. Thank you for calling. William, I apologize for interrupting your celebration. Robert Chen's voice came through crystal clear. But I'm calling to confirm something rather urgent. Of course, what is it? I'm calling to confirm that your daughter, Emily Peterson, has just finalized the purchase of our entire company. Apex Technologies is now wholly owned by her investment firm, Meridian Capital. The room went completely silent. Dad's face drained of color. I'm sorry, what? Your daughter now owns Apex Technologies, Robert repeated. The acquisition closed at 4 p.m. today. $847 million. All cash. I wanted to personally congratulate you on having raised such an impressive businesswoman. Dad's handshake. The phone nearly slipped from his grip. That's impossible, he stammered. Emily doesn't have that kind of money. She's a bookkeeper. Actually, sir, according to the documents I've reviewed, Ms. Peterson is the founder and CEO of Meridian Capital, a private equity firm that's been operating for 7 years. Her personal net worth is approximately $2.1 billion. I watched the color drain from Mom's face. Daniel's mouth literally hung open. Sophie's champagne glass tilted, spilling onto her designer dress, but she didn't even notice. I'm looking forward to working under Ms. Peterson's leadership, Robert continued, completely unaware of the bomb he'd just dropped. William, I hope you understand that this means your position as senior VP will now report to your daughter. We can discuss the transition on Monday. Dad looked at me. Everyone looked at me. I smiled. Hi, Robert. Emily here. Thank you for the call. I'll see you Monday morning at 8. Let's plan for a full executive meeting. Excellent. Congratulations, Ms. Peterson. And happy anniversary to your parents. The call ended. The silence that followed was so complete I could hear my own heartbeat. Finally, my brother Daniel spoke. What the hell just happened? I set down my cheap purse and walked to the center of the room. 80 people parted like the Red Sea. What just happened, I said calmly, is that I bought Dad's company. Well, technically I bought the parent corporation that owns Dad's company, along with 17 other subsidiary businesses. But Mom couldn't finish the sentence. A bookkeeper? I finished for her. Oh, Mom. I'm a private equity investor. I have been for 7 years. The bookkeeping job, you always dismissed? That was me managing my investment portfolio from home. Dad found his voice. $2.1 billion? Give or take. The market fluctuates. How is this possible? Daniel demanded. You don't have that kind of money. You drive a 15-year-old Honda. Because it's paid off and gets good gas mileage, I replied. Why would I waste money on a new car when the one I have works perfectly? Your apartment, Mom started, is a penthouse I own outright in the building I bought 6 years ago. I pay myself $600 a month in rent for tax purposes. The other units generate about $40,000 monthly. My Aunt Linda actually sat down, her legs giving out. The clothes, Jessica whispered. You always dress so frugally, I supplied. Yes. Because I don't need to prove anything to anyone. Every dollar I didn't spend on designer labels went into investments. Compound interest is an amazing thing. I turned to my father. Dad, you've spent 30 years teaching me the business. You just didn't realize you were teaching me. Every dinner where you complained about incompetent executives, I learned what not to do. Every time you bragged about a deal, I studied the structure. Every time you dismissed my questions as not understanding business, I went home and researched until I did understand. Dad's face was red now. Anger replacing shock. You deceived us. You let us think. I let you reveal who you really were, I interrupted. I let you show me year after year that you only valued me when you thought I was successful. The moment you decided I was a failure, I became an embarrassment. Someone to exclude. Someone to hide. That's not fair, Mom protested. We were trying to protect you from embarrassment. No, you were trying to protect yourselves. You didn't want your poor daughter around your rich friends. I pulled out my phone and opened an email. I received the cruise confirmation this afternoon. The Mediterranean luxury cruise, first class, 30 days. Total cost for your party of 6, $340,000. Mom gasped. How did you? I own the cruise line, Mom. Well, I own the investment group that owns 60% of the cruise line. Which means I had access to all booking information. I looked at my father. You booked this trip 6 months ago. You knew you weren't inviting me. You've known for half a year that you were going to exclude me from your anniversary celebration. You just waited until tonight in front of everyone to make it public. Emily, that's not, Dad started. I have the emails, Dad. Between you and Daniel discussing whether to tell me at all or just let me figure it out. Daniel voted for not telling me. You thought this public announcement would be kinder. Daniel had the grace to look ashamed. Sophie was crying quietly. So here's what's going to happen, I continued. That cruise. Cancelled. As of 6 p.m. tonight, your reservation was terminated. Full refund issued. You can't do that. Dad exploded. I just did. I'm the majority shareholder. I can do whatever I want. Mom looked like she might faint. But we've been planning this for months. We've told everyone. Tell them the truth then. Tell them your daughter, the one you publicly humiliated, owns the cruise line and cancelled your trip. The room was so quiet I could hear people breathing. As for Apex Technologies, I continued, turning to my father, we need to discuss your future with the company. You can't fire me, Dad said, his voice shaking with rage. I've built that company for 20 years. Actually, I can fire you. I own it. But I'm not going to. You're good at your job, Dad. You're just a terrible father. That landed like a slap. So here's the deal, I said. You'll keep your position, but you'll report directly to me. Your salary stays the same, but your bonuses will now be performance-based. Real performance, not the inflated numbers you've been presenting to the previous ownership. I pulled up another document on my phone. I've been reviewing the books. You've been padding your department's revenue reports by about 15% for the last 3 years. That ends immediately. Dad's face went from red to white. Don't worry, it's not technically fraud, just very creative accounting. But under my ownership, we're going to run a transparent operation. I looked around the room at all the shocked faces. Anyone else here work for companies in my portfolio? By my count, about 12 of you do, though you don't know it because I own through shell corporations. A few people shifted uncomfortably. Your jobs are safe, I assured them. Unless you've been doing what my father's been doing. In which case, Monday morning is going to be very interesting for you. My uncle Richard, who worked in finance, suddenly looked very pale. I turned back to my parents. I'm leaving now. I have a conference call with investors in Tokyo in an hour. But I wanted you to understand something. I didn't build a billion-dollar empire to spite you. I built it because I loved business and I was good at it. I kept it quiet because I wanted to see who in this family actually loved me for me, not for what I could do for them. And what did you learn? Mom asked quietly, tears streaming down her face. That Daniel called me twice in 7 years, both times to borrow money. That you, Mom, only invited me to family events when you needed someone to watch the grandkids. That Dad here bragged about having one successful child, at every opportunity. I picked up my cheap purse. I learned that conditional love isn't love at all. Emily, please, Dad said, and for the first time in my life I heard him beg. We can fix this. We can. Can you? I asked. Can you honestly tell me that if I walked in here tonight in a Target dress without that phone call, you would have treated me differently? Would you have invited me on that cruise? He couldn't answer. That's what I thought. I walked toward the door, then paused. By the way, the country club? I bought it this morning. 90% stake. This party tonight was complimentary. Consider it my anniversary gift to you. I left them there, 80 people in stunned silence, and walked out to my 15-year-old Honda. The drive home took 20 minutes. My phone rang constantly. Mom, Dad, Daniel, cousins, aunts, uncles. I ignored them all. When I got to my penthouse, I changed into sweatpants and made myself a sandwich. Then I joined the conference call with my Tokyo investors and discussed a potential acquisition in the semiconductor industry. Because that's who I was now. Not poor Emily, the family embarrassment. Not rich Emily, the shocking revelation. Just Emily. A woman who built something extraordinary and didn't need anyone's permission to be proud of it. 48 hours later, as I'd told them in the hook, my parents returned from their cruise, except there was no cruise. They'd spent 2 days in a hotel near the airport, trying to rebook on another cruise line, before finally accepting that their trip was actually cancelled. By me. The daughter they deemed too poor and embarrassing to include. Monday morning, Dad showed up at Apex Technologies headquarters at 7:45 a.m. I was already in my new office, the CEO's office, reviewing quarterly reports. He knocked on my door, something he'd never done before in his life. Come in. He entered slowly, looking around at the office that used to belong to Robert Chen. This is quite a space. It is. Emily, I need to apologize. For what specifically? I asked, not looking up from my reports. For not seeing you. For assuming you'd failed just because you weren't doing things the way I thought you should. And for excluding me from your anniversary cruise in front of 80 people? He flinched. That too. I finally looked up. Dad, I don't need an apology that you're only giving because you found out I'm rich. I needed a father who loved me when he thought I had nothing. I did love you. Did you? Or did you love the idea of me, right up until I didn't meet your expectations? He sat down heavily in the chair across from my desk. For the first time I noticed how old he looked. 62 with gray hair and tired eyes. I don't know how to fix this, he admitted. Neither do I said honestly. But here's what's going to happen at work. You'll do your job excellently because you're good at it. You'll report to me professionally because that's the structure. And we'll keep our personal relationship and our professional relationship completely separate. And outside of work? I don't know yet, Dad. I really don't. He nodded slowly, standing up. For what it's worth, I am proud of you. What you've built is extraordinary. You're proud of what I've built, I corrected gently. Not who I am. There's a difference. He left without another word. Over the next few weeks, Mom tried to rebuild our relationship. She sent flowers, called every day, invited me to lunch. I went to a few lunches. We talked carefully around the hurt, neither of us quite ready to dig into it. Daniel was quieter. He sent one email. I'm sorry. I should have been a better brother. I appreciated that more than he probably knew. The family gossip network exploded. Every relative suddenly wanted to reconnect. I responded to a few, ignored most. 3 months after the anniversary party, the country club board, which I now controlled, voted to make significant changes. We cut membership fees by 40%, opened up scholarships for underprivileged kids to use the facilities, and started a program to help local small businesses. My parents still belonged, of course. But now, when they walked through those doors, they did so as members of a club that valued community over exclusivity. It was a small change, maybe. But it felt right. As for me, I kept driving my Honda, wearing my Target dresses, and building my empire. Not to prove anything to anyone anymore. Just because I loved it. And because I'd learned something that night at the anniversary party. The people who love you for who you appear to be will disappear the moment that appearance changes. But the person you become when no one's watching? That's who you really are. And I'd spent 7 years becoming someone I was genuinely proud of. Even if my family hadn't been watching.